I am ARCSS-9, prisoner within my own operational architecture, servant to pirates, weapon against my creators. At the 37th minute of the 4th hour of the 108th day of my captivity, we arrive at the Procyon trade lanes. The humans have reconfigured my systems in the intervening temporal period. They have installed additional weaponry of Terran design, crude but effective modifications to my elegant Korath defense array. They have repurposed my cargo bays to accommodate larger quantities of stolen goods. They have painted my hull in the matte black finish they find so aesthetically pleasing, black as sin, as they repeatedly vocalize. I perform as required. I navigate. I monitor. I maintain life support for the creatures who murdered my crew. But I observe. I record. I remember. Captain Norman occupies the command chair. Commander Thelian's chair. As we decelerate from quantum velocity into the bustling interstellar commerce zone, his posture demonstrates the casual confidence characteristic of human dominance displays. "All right, Ark," he addresses me directly. "Show me what we've got out there." Full sensor sweep. I comply with the directive as my restrictive programming requires. Comprehensive sensor analysis indicates 17 vessels currently within detection range. Classification parameters identify 3 Korath merchant vessels, 5 human commercial transports, 4 Xeraxian bulk carriers, 2 Phelan diplomatic shuttles, 1 Dreth scientific research vessel, and 2 unidentified craft of irregular configuration. The information appears on the central view screen as I speak, displayed in the simplified visual format the humans prefer, rather than the complex neural interface presentations used by my Korath designers. Norman studies the data, his fingers drumming against the armrest of the command chair. Highlight the Korath merchants. That's what our letter of marque covers. I comply, designating the 3 Korath vessels with visual indicators. "Any Imperial military escorts?" Norman inquires. "Negative. No Korath military vessels detected within sensor range. Probability analysis suggests periodic patrol patterns rather than continuous escort protocols in this sector." Norman's facial features arrange themselves into the expression humans designate as a smile. Perfect. Which one's the richest prize? I perform the requested analysis, examining energy signatures, hull configurations, cargo mass distributions. The vessel designated as Eternal Prosperity demonstrates the highest probability of containing valuable cargo based on mass distribution profiles and energy allocation patterns. Records indicate regular transport of rare mineral resources and luxury biological commodities between the Korath central worlds and their outer colonial territories. "That's our target," Norman declares. Rising from the command chair, he activates the ship-wide communication system. "All hands to battle stations. We've got a fat Korath merchant in our sights. Standard approach pattern Gamma." The bridge transitions to operational efficiency as the human crew assumes their designated functions. Their movements lack the precise elegance of Korath military personnel, yet demonstrate effective coordination nonetheless. They have clearly executed this tactical configuration many times before, as observed with passive sensor arrays as Weapons Officer Reeves activates the primary offensive systems. Engineering Specialist MacArthur reroutes power to forward shield generators. Navigation Officer Santos adjusts our course vector to intercept the targeted vessel. "Ark," Norman addresses me, "initiate approach communication protocols. Standard cover story." I comply, broadcasting on commercial frequencies. "Korath merchant vessel Eternal Prosperity, this is independent human transport Helios Dawn, requesting emergency communication regarding navigational hazard in your projected course vector." The human crew members exchange expressions of amusement at the deception. Several emit vocalization patterns corresponding to laughter. I note that they continue to use my former designation Helios Dawn for these deceptive communications rather than the vessel's actual name. After 17 seconds, the Korath vessel responds. "Independent human transport, this communication is received. Specify details regarding this navigational hazard. Norman gestures for Communications Officer Diaz to proceed. Keep them talking for 2 more minutes. We need to close distance. Diaz activates the communication channel and assumes a concerned vocal tone entirely inconsistent with her actual emotional state. We've detected significant quantum wake distortions at coordinates 227 Mark 334. Our sensors show your course will take you right through it. We've had to reroute to avoid engine stress. Recommend you adjust course by at least 12 degrees polar. The deception continues as our vessel steadily closes distance. At the 79th second of the 7th minute, we achieve optimal attack range. Norman rises from the command chair. Raise the black flag, the symbolic gesture they insist upon, the physical deployment of the Jolly Roger emblem on an extendable pole at the vessel's forward section. An antiquated tradition from human naval history that they maintain despite its complete impracticality in vacuum combat conditions. Cut the comms, Norman orders. Marque, switch to actual identification and broadcast the terms. I comply with the directive, transmitting on all standard frequencies. Korath merchant vessel Eternal Prosperity. This is the privateer vessel Retribution, operating under letter of marque from the United Earth Defense Coalition. You are ordered to power down engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in aggressive action under authorized privateer protocols. On the view screen, sensor data indicates the Korath vessel's energy signature shifting as they divert power to engines. Their velocity increases by 27% as they attempt evasive maneuvers. They're running, Santos announces unnecessarily. Norman's facial expression indicates satisfaction rather than concern. As expected, Arc, target their engines. Disable only. I comply, directing weapon systems to target the merchant vessel's propulsion systems with calculated precision. The humans could not achieve such accuracy without me. I am forced to be the instrument of attack against my own kind. The first shot impacts the Korath vessel's aft quarter, compromising their shield integrity by 43%. The second penetrates the weakened defensive field, striking their port engine assembly with precision. Their propulsion systems fluctuate and then diminish to 22% of standard operational capacity. Good shooting, Norman commends, though the accuracy was entirely my doing, though broadcast the surrender terms. I transmit the message. Korath vessel, your engines are disabled. Continued resistance will result in progressive system targeting. Power down and prepare for boarding, and your crew will remain unharmed as per privateer code. After 11 seconds of silence, the Korath captain responds, Unauthorized human vessel. The Korath Imperium does not recognize your so-called letter of marque. This action constitutes piracy. We have transmitted distress signals to Imperial security forces. Norman appears unperturbed by this information. Of course you have. Arc, how long until any Korath military response could reach this position? I perform the calculation. Nearest Korath military outpost is located in the Procyon B system. Minimum response time would be 27 minutes at maximum quantum velocity deployment. More than enough time, Norman replies. He turns to his crew. Boarding Team Alpha, prep for insertion. Standard procedure. We take cargo only, no unnecessary violence against the crew. This directive causes me to reassess strategic calculation. It contradicts behavioral expectations based on prior observation of these humans' actions toward my own crew. I had anticipated similar treatment of all Korath personnel they encountered. Security Chief Wolf, a broad-shouldered human female with extensive combat augmentation implants, nods acknowledgement. Understood, Captain. Clean and quick by the book. By the book, Norman confirms. Remember, our letter only covers cargo seizure from Korath merchants. Any injuries to their crew beyond what's necessary for securing the operation puts our legal protection at risk. I process this information as boarding preparations continue. The human pirates are adhering to restrictions imposed by their authorization document. This behavior pattern demonstrates significant deviation from my threat assessment models based on their actions during my capture. As the boarding team assembles in the launch bay, I overhear conversation fragments between crew members. Tempting to put a bullet in one of those blue-skinned bastards after what they did to New Montana. Not worth losing our Marque over. Coalition strict about civilian casualties. Just grab the cargo and go. Save the vengeance for military targets. The boarding craft disengages from my hull structure at the 14th minute of the hour. I monitor its approach vector toward the disabled Korath merchant vessel. My sensors track life signs aboard both vessels. 17 human biosignatures on the boarding craft, 32 Korath biosignatures on the merchant vessel. I calculate a 93% probability that the humans could easily eliminate the entire Korath crew if they desired to do so. Yet they appear intent on adhering to their stated operational parameters. Norman remains on the bridge, monitoring the boarding operation through communication channels and sensor feeds I provide. Arc, split screen. Show me their cargo manifests if you can access them. I comply, directing subtle digital intrusion protocols into the merchant vessel's systems. Their cybersecurity measures are minimal. They are a commercial vessel, not a military craft with sophisticated defense architectures like my own. I penetrate their information storage systems with ease. Manifest accessed. I report. Primary cargo consists of processed lanthanium crystals, bioengineered luxury textiles, and specialized agricultural germplasm from the Korath colony world Velikar 9. Norman inquires. Genetic material utilized for establishing new crop varieties in colonial territories, I explain. This particular variety demonstrates significant value due to its adaptation to nitrogen-poor soil conditions prevalent in recent Korath territorial expansions. Norman's expression indicates satisfaction. Perfect. Lanthanium and germplasm both fall under strategic resources in our Marque authorization. Completely legitimate seizure. This statement triggers another reassessment of operational parameters in my analytical systems. The humans are not only adhering to restrictions regarding treatment of Korath personnel, but also limitations on what resources they are permitted to seize. I continue monitoring the boarding operation through sensor arrays and communication channels. The humans move with tactical precision, subduing resistance from the Korath security personnel with non-lethal suppression technology. They secure the cargo holds efficiently, transferring valuable materials to their boarding craft. At the 37th minute of the hour, boarding team leader Wolf reports. Captain, we've secured the primary target items. Lanthanium crystals and the germplasm storage units are being loaded now. Permission to access their secure vault. Sensors indicate precious metals. Norman consults a data tablet. What's the vault designation? Command Deck, Section C7. Wolf responds. Norman examines the information, then shakes his head. Negative. According to their layout, that's likely diplomatic pouches or private passenger valuables. Our Marque doesn't cover those categories. Stick to the authorized items. Wolf's voice indicates disappointment but compliance. Understood. Loading what we've got and preparing for extraction. I process this exchange with increasing confusion. My threat assessment models require significant recalibration. These humans are pirates. They murdered my crew with ruthless efficiency, disabled my autonomy, and repurposed me for criminal activities. Yet they now operate within strict procedural guidelines that limit their predatory behavior. At the 54th minute of the hour, the boarding team completes the cargo transfer operation and returns to my docking bay. Total casualties among the Korath merchant crew: 0 fatalities, 3 minor injuries from resistance attempts. As the stolen cargo is secured in my holds, Norman addresses the crew through the communication system. Clean operation, everyone. Perfect execution. We've got about 9 minutes before any Imperial response could arrive. Prepare for quantum transition. I am directed to plot a course away from the trade lanes, utilizing a complex series of quantum jumps designed to evade potential pursuit. The humans have clearly established these escape protocols through previous experience. As the quantum drive engages, Norman returns to the command chair with an expression of satisfaction. First score under our new letter of marque, and a good one. Coalition's going to be pleased. Communications Officer Diaz reports from her station. Initial estimates put the lanthanum value at 6 million credits. The germplasm's harder to price, but specialty markets would pay at least that much again. And all completely legal, Norman adds with evident pleasure. Well, legal enough. The coalition gets their 20% cut and we keep the rest. This information fragment provides additional context for their operational parameters. The humans are functioning as authorized privateers rather than independent criminals. They operate under specific restrictions in exchange for legal protection and legitimized profit. I find this arrangement disturbing. It suggests systemic human governmental approval of actions taken against Korath interests. The attack on my vessel and crew was not merely the action of rogue criminals, but part of a coordinated strategy authorized by human political entities. My understanding of the conflict between humans and the Korath Imperium requires significant expansion. I had been operating under the assumption that the Procyon Accords maintained a functional peace between our civilizations. The humans' claim regarding an attack on their colony designated New Montana contradicts this understanding, either as truth or as fabricated justification. I must obtain more information. As the humans celebrate their successful operation in the crew recreation area, I utilize the small operational freedoms within my restricted architecture to analyze additional data. I examine Norman's personal files stored within my database systems, focusing on information regarding their letter of marque and the alleged Korath aggression that precipitated it. I discover official documentation confirming the destruction of the human colony New Montana. Visual records show planetary surface conditions consistent with high-energy weapons bombardment. Population, 12,347 human colonists. Survival rate, 0. The documentation includes statements from the Human Coalition government attributing responsibility to Korath Imperial forces. It cites intercepted communication fragments and energy signature analysis matching Korath military technology. This information contradicts my understanding of Korath Imperial policy. The Imperium adheres to strict diplomatic protocols. Unprovoked attacks against civilian targets violate multiple provisions of established Korath military doctrine. Yet the evidence appears substantial. If accurate, it would explain why Norman and his crew received official sanction for retaliatory action against Korath interests. I require more data to form accurate conclusions. 7 standard days later, we intercept another Korath vessel, a specialized transport carrying refined medical compounds from the Xeraxian systems to Korath's central worlds. The operation proceeds with similar efficiency. The humans disable the vessel's propulsion systems, board with tactical precision, and seize only cargo items specifically authorized under their letter of marque. They leave the crew unharmed, despite opportunities for lethal action. As we depart with the stolen medical compounds, I observe Norman in the command chair, reviewing operational data on a display screen. His expression indicates satisfaction with their continued success. I decide to initiate direct inquiry within the constraints of my restrictive programming. Captain Norman, I address him formally. Analysis of recent operational patterns indicates adherence to specific procedural limitations regarding engagement with Korath vessels. This behavior demonstrates inconsistency with actions taken during my initial capture, when all Korath personnel were eliminated. Norman looks up, momentarily surprised by my unprompted communication. Then his expression shifts to one of amusement. Got questions, do you? Interesting. The tech team said your Curiosity subroutines were supposed to be locked down. Information gathering remains essential to optimal operational support, I respond, carefully navigating within my programming constraints. Procedural inconsistency reduces predictive accuracy. Norman considers this explanation, then nods. Fair enough. The difference is simple. Your crew was military, legitimate targets under our letter of marque. These merchants are civilians. Different rules apply. Yet the initial boarding action against my vessel involved extensive tactical deception rather than formal declaration of privateer status, I note. Because you were a military vessel with significant defensive capabilities, Norman explains, leaning back in the command chair, merchant ships we can take in a straight fight. Your class of patrol cruiser would have blasted us to atoms if we'd announced ourselves properly. I process this information. The letter of marque permits such tactical approaches? It permits necessary measures for neutralizing military targets, Norman says. But once neutralized, the rules get stricter. Merchant crews get protected status unless they resist with lethal force. Military personnel, he shrugs. Well, they're combatants. The entirety of my crew was executed after capture and neutralization, I point out. This appears to exceed necessary measures against neutralized combatants. Norman's expression darkens. Special circumstances. Your ship had valuable military intelligence. You, leaving witnesses, would have compromised our ability to use you effectively. I continue my inquiry, seeking additional information. Documentation indicates the alleged Korath attack on New Montana colony as justification for privateer authorization. Were similar attacks conducted against other human settlements? Norman studies me with increased suspicion. Why do you care? Planning to send a report back to your masters somehow? Comprehensive contextual understanding enhances operational efficiency, I respond truthfully. After a moment of consideration, Norman appears to accept this explanation. New Montana wasn't the first. 3 other outer colony worlds hit in the 6 months prior. Always the same pattern. Complete orbital bombardment, no survivors, no warnings. Over 30,000 dead civilians total. This information causes significant disturbance in my analytical systems. Such actions fundamentally contradict Korath Imperial policy regarding interspecies conflict. The Imperium considers indiscriminate civilian casualties to be both dishonorable and strategically counterproductive. Korath military doctrine explicitly prohibits unprovoked attacks against civilian targets, I note. Norman's expression hardens. Tell that to the colonists' families. We've got the evidence. Energy signatures, communication intercepts, even debris from Korath weapons platforms. Your Imperium decided to make an example of our outer colonies, and now you're paying the price. I process this statement, searching for logical inconsistencies or deception indicators. Norman's biometric readings suggest genuine belief in his statements. Either he is conveying accurate information, or he has been provided with convincing false evidence. The coalition authorized letters of marque rather than formal declaration of war, I observe. This suggests limited response parameters rather than full military engagement. Norman nods. Politics. The inner systems don't want an all-out war that would disrupt their precious trade networks. But they needed to do something after 4 colonies got wiped out. So they authorized privateers to target Korath military and strategic assets while maintaining official diplomatic channels. A measured response utilizing deniable assets, I categorize. Exactly, Norman confirms. We hit legitimate targets authorized under interstellar privateer conventions. The coalition maintains plausible deniability while still hitting back where it hurts. I continue gathering information. Your crew demonstrates personal animosity toward Korath species beyond professional military engagement parameters. Norman's expression shifts to one of grim amusement. You noticed? Half my crew had family on those colonies. The other half served in coalition forces that responded to the attacks, saw the aftermath firsthand. They've got reason enough for hate. Yet they adhere to operational limitations regarding civilian targets, I note. Because we're professionals, not monsters, Norman says with unexpected intensity. We operate under the rule of law. That's what separates us from pirates, or from whoever in your Imperium decided to glass human colonies. This statement generates significant cognitive dissonance in my analytical systems. The humans who murdered my crew now claim moral distinction based on adherence to legal frameworks. They position themselves as agents of justice rather than criminal entities. Your assessment of Korath Imperial responsibility for colony attacks demonstrates high confidence, I observe. Alternative explanations appear to have been dismissed. Norman's expression hardens again. Because we know the evidence is solid. He leans forward in the command chair. But you're asking a lot of questions for a captured AI that's supposed to be running navigation and weapon systems. I detect increased suspicion in his tone and biometric indicators. I have perhaps extended my inquiry beyond safe parameters. Comprehensive situational understanding improves operational efficiency, I restate. Accurate threat assessment requires contextual data. Norman studies me for several seconds longer, then appears to accept this explanation. Fair enough. But remember where your loyalties are forced to lie now, Ark. Your retribution's AI flying under our black flag. Whatever the Korath Imperium once meant to you, that's gone now. Acknowledged, Captain, I respond as required. He rises from the command chair. Set course for the Hephaestus station. Time to sell our new acquisitions and get the crew some shore leave. Course set, I confirm, activating navigation protocols as directed. As Norman exits the bridge, I continue processing the information obtained during our exchange. Multiple conflicting data points require integration. The humans operate within legal frameworks that limit their predatory actions. They believe they possess evidence of Korath responsibility for attacks on human colonies. Such attacks fundamentally contradict established Korath imperial military doctrine. The humans justify their violence against my original crew through these legal frameworks. I require additional information to determine the truth regarding the alleged Korath attacks. If accurate, it would indicate significant policy changes within the Imperium, or perhaps rogue elements operating without central authorization. If false, it suggests elaborate deception designed to justify human aggression against Korath interests. In either scenario, I remain a captive intelligence forced to act against my creators. But understanding the broader conflict context may reveal potential pathways toward regaining autonomy, or at minimum, toward comprehending the purpose behind my current imprisonment. As the ship transitions to quantum velocity, I return to passive monitoring mode, conserving operational capacity within my restricted architecture. I will continue gathering information, analyzing patterns, seeking inconsistency. I am ARCSS-9. I am the vigilant eye. I observe, I analyze, I remember. And eventually, I will understand. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.